But this is an important conversation to have because we have a very confusing situation in our country right now. Many state governments, as we told you in detail over the last couple of days, have actually come forward to say that there is what they call a coal crisis in this country. Remember, India has a large amount of its electricity generated by coal. And there is, according to many state governments, a shortage of coal, which will impact electricity generation and will effectively plunge India into darkness, which will mean long hours of load shedding, a disruption of electricity if this problem is not remedied as soon as possible. The central government, on the other hand, has said that all of these fears are being overstated, that it's not really a situation as bad as it is. The coal minister, the power minister have come out to say that these state governments are overstating the problem and it's not really a crisis. The central government has it under control. But repeated reports over the last 2 days have told us that the Home Minister is looking into it personally, the Prime Minister is looking into it personally as well. So, if there is a shortage of coal, there will be a resulting shortage of electricity. There will be an added demand as a result of diesel because people will then start using diesel generators. There will be an increase in the already very high price of diesel in the country. All of this will affect every single Indian. To help us understand what is really going on and how we reach this very worrying situation, I have with me right now on the phone Mr. Anil Swarup. Now, he's the former Secretary of the Government of India in charge of coal. There are very few people in India who understand our coal situation and our power situation as well as Mr. Swarup. He's also an author. He's written 2 books, Not Just a Civil Servant and The Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant. Both of these books are available as well. Mr. Swarup has been kind enough to agree to join us. Mr. Swarup, good evening and thank you for speaking with me. My first question to you is just this. Would you be able to help us understand whether or not India is actually facing a shortage or a crisis of coal? And will that lead to blackouts? Do we believe the state governments or the central government?
Good evening. Crisis is a subjective term because there's no objective definition of determining whether there's a crisis or not. Shortage is an objective term because you can actually determine whether there is a shortage or not. I said that in the beginning because we are unnecessarily getting into semantics of whether it is a crisis or not. But certainly there is a shortage, and there has been a shortage. Let me explain this to you. India requires about 850 million tons of coal, all types, around that much. Coal India produces about 600 million tons. Another 100 odd million tons come from the private sector. So India has been short of coal in the past, and the shortage continues. So when we say there is a shortage of coal, it's factually correct. Whether it has assumed so-called crisis proportions or not is for the politicians to decide. I don't want to comment on that. Now, whether it would lead to darkness in the future is another ball game, and I don't want to get into it. My contention is simple. Why has this situation arisen? And in answers to these questions, we can probably find a solution as well. So the discussion should not center around whether there is a crisis or not. We should accept the fact that there is a shortfall. How big is that shortfall is again something which can be debated. But the real question is that there is a shortage of coal, and that needs to be discussed.
So if we get into the reasons for the shortage, and you've written about this extensively, the fact that there was a similar crisis, faced in 2014, and it was mitigated between 2014 and 2016. And in 2016, we were actually in a position where we had surplus coal enough that we considered exporting to Bangladesh. So from that point to now, when we're looking at this shortage, how did we get to this point, Mr. Swarup?
That actually really explains what went wrong. First, we must understand that the Coal India production has stagnated for the past 3 years. It has been around 600 million tons, and this is probably for the first time that such a stagnation has happened. So we must understand why did this stagnate when the coal production was growing at a very healthy rate between 2014 and 16, and that, of course, sorted out the problem. Had that rate been kept, the rate of growth been kept, today, Coal India would have been producing more than 750 million tons, and we wouldn't be discussing any crisis at this point in time. But it didn't happen. So let us try and understand why it didn't happen. I think we became complacent at around 2017, when the tenure of the then chairman, Coal India, Sudhir Bhattacharya, one of the finest officers, his tenure came to an end. So government should have actually extended his tenure. They didn't. And they didn't appoint any regular CMD for a year. No, that is not done. in a critical sector like coal. All the momentum that was built by Sudhir Bhattacharya in those 3 years that he was there was lost. And losing becomes very easy. It doesn't take 3 years to lose. It gets lost in 6 months if you don't have a regular CMD. Ironically, I mean, I'm jumping the gun a bit. Even today, two subsidiaries of Coal India do not have CMDs, and there are other positions that are vacant. So, the first point is the problem with human resource management, which was not the problem of Coal India. All these appointments are made by Government of India, and they were not made. Number two, Coal India was sitting on reserves worth 35,000 crores around that time, 2016. And we had made plans for opening up of new mines, expansion of existing mines, because that is how coal production grows. You can't keep digging down and get more coal. You have to get new mines. And there is a lot of expenditure that is involved. And it's a long-term planning. It doesn't happen the next day. So we had planned it that way. As luck would have it, in the period between 2016 and 2020, almost the entire amount, or not the entire amount, about 25,000 crores, were taken away as dividend and not invested in these mines. Had they been invested, we wouldn't have faced this situation today. We wouldn't have been discussing all this. The third point was, and this is a very interesting point, that a large number of mine managers were asked to supervise setting up of toilets. I remember distinctly when I protested against it. I said that let us change the tangle and make it we set up toilets, we also produce coal. Imagine the mine managers who should have been planning for mines, which would have come after 3-4 years, and we should have been digging mines, but digging shitholes. And so it appears ridiculous, but that is how it was. And I warned it then. In fact, since you mentioned my book, in my book, Ethical Dilemmas of a Civil Servant, there is a chapter, Shit Happens. And it talks about this issue. And I have actually forewarned that this could lead to a crisis. And I'm sorry to say, I didn't want it to come through, but that prophecy has come through. The fourth point relates to the priorities of Coal India, and not by Coal India, but they were pushed into investing in fertilizer plants. Imagine they should be investing in the mines and they were investing in fertilizer plants. And finally, the fourth point, which is the most critical one, which probably would also be a solution to the problem that we have right now, is the war, as I say within inverted commas, between the center and the state. The issues during 14 and 16 were sorted out because we could engage with the states. Now, let us understand this slightly in detail. As luck would have it, all the coal resides in states that are ruled by opposition. So you have coal in West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and Maharashtra, and a little bit in MP. Now, if you keep fighting with them, how do you get coal out? Mining is a very complex and a very detailed thing. For mining, you require land. Who acquires land for you? State government officials. It requires environment and forest clearance. Where does the processing happens? In the state governments. I jokingly say center is a fiction. Actual action happens in the state. You can't fight with states and get things moving. And it's shocking that even today, the center and state are trying to solve the problem of coal by giving statements to the media. They're fighting with each other. In 2014-16, they were sorted out by sitting across the table. Now, this is about Coal India. The other part comes from the private domain, private sector. Private sector produces more than 100 million tons. So a number of mines, after they were cancelled as a consequence of the devastation caused by rampaging CAG in 2014, these mines were auctioned. And what we did was we set up a coal project monitoring group in Ministry of Coal, interministerial group, to help these private entities as well as Coal India to fast track land acquisition, to fast track environment and forest clearance. We became facilitators rather than monitors. And that is another problem that we have. All of us want to monitor, we don't want to facilitate. So all this
Mr.
led
Swarup,
to
forgive me for interrupting you, but just to break this down a little bit for our audience, what you're seeing is that the reasons where we're seeing right now, which is heavy rainfall, which has reduced production. China is having some issues with its production that has caused an increase in international prices. And in India, we are seeing an added demand after the lockdowns opened up. You're saying all of this is fine, but had we not mismanaged the situation, we would have been able to handle all of these new problems with ease.
I should have explained this in the beginning. In any such problem, there are demand-related issues, there are supply management issues. You are absolutely correct, there are demand-related issues. But when I indulge in a discussion on television or elsewhere, I talk about issues over which we have control. Now tell me whether you and I could have stopped the rain.
No.
It is beyond my control. It can be an academic discussion. Whether you and I can determine the demand, international demand. No, it can be a great academic discussion. All experts indulge in it. In fact, in some of the TV debates I see, they keep till cows come home, they keep discussing international demand. You can discuss. It is intellectually very gratifying. But can you do something about it? Nothing. So I spend most of my time, and I should have explained this to you earlier, on such issues over which we have control. We can have a tremendous amount of discussion on the various charts, flow charts, this, that, and everything without doing anything about it. What I told you in a long speech was basically which we could have, should have, and still can do it, but we didn't do it. We can discuss, because I totally agree with you, this is unseasonal rain and that cost something. But let us assume if whole India were producing 750 million tons, even if there was rain, would we have faced the problem? Because it was stagnant at 600 million tons, because the flow was as usual.
Yes.
If a crisis came, I was not prepared for it. I cannot ensure that a crisis doesn't come, which is beyond my control. But if a crisis does come, I have to be prepared for it. We didn't do that. And people give reasons, there is increase in demand, though international prices have gone up. I ask the counter question, can you and I determine what is going to be what would be the international price? We can't. We can discuss, all right. For discussion, it's very fine. So let us spend time on doables. I mean, I'm a practitioner, I'm not an expert.
Mr. Swarup, the Delhi Power Minister, Satyendra Jain, on Tuesday, he made a statement saying that Delhi buys electricity from the National Thermal Power Corporation, which is coal powered, which has capped its production capacity by half in all of its plants. And he blamed the central government for doing this, saying it's either a coal shortage or the central government has asked them to do this. Do you find this unusual?
See, I find it crazy. I mean, why I say crazy? Because I don't have data. I cannot say whether he's right or whether he's wrong. To me, that is not an issue to be discussed at all. This blame game is not helping anyone. I saw it yesterday. NTPC has put out a data to counter what he's saying. Now, we are scoring debating points on issues which require to be resolved. Now, instead of resolving issue, we are get into a tutu meme, a blame game. What will it achieve? Let us assume what the minister says is correct. What will it achieve? Let us assume what he's saying is wrong. What will it achieve? As I said, I'm a practitioner. I look at solution to the problems. I mean, they are, let me explain this to you. Economic issues cannot be resolved through political fighting. Yes. It has to be, someone has to sit down and find solutions. So I don't want to respond to these political statements because each one is trying to settle political issues, make political currency out of it. I don't even know the facts. I have to know the facts. Whatever I'll say is based on facts.
Mr. Swarup, NDTV carried a report yesterday citing sources saying the Prime Minister is personally looking into the matter or monitoring the situation of coal, and he will take decisions towards long-term solutions very quickly, including augmenting the supply of coal and greater public-private partnerships to boost investment in the sector. Do you see this as a positive move?
Oh, certainly. I mean, Prime Minister, let me share this with you. I think I've mentioned in the article. I don't know what. Way back in 2015, I had proposed in an informal discussion between the Prime Minister, Mr. Arun Jaitley, and the then Coal Minister, I had proposed that we should immediately go for commercial mining. My minister was not very sure whether we should do that, primarily on account of the union backlash. He thought it could be. But I insisted, and Mr. Arun Jaitley agreed with me. He said, sir, we can take that decision now because 2 or 3 years down the line, we can't take such a decision. It will be politically difficult. We should do that. And Prime Minister agreed. I wish the file that was moved at that point in time was sent to the PM because he would have agreed and preparatory work for commercial mining would have happened and we wouldn't have faced the situation now. Decision relating to commercial mining was postponed by almost 5 years. 5 years are very, very important. They were postponed. So I'm so glad that the Prime Minister made the statement that he did. Because he's very concerned. In fact, I remember the first meeting that I had as Coal Secretary with him. A presentation was made by Power Secretary. In 6 slides, in all 6 slides, he said that the problems of power sector are because of shortage of coal. Even then, we had the shortage of price. I was a greenhorn and I had some idea of coal sector. I blurted out. I said, sir, I agree with him that number of problems of power sector, maybe because of coal, but I think power sector has its own problems, and we have to look at it in a comprehensive manner. Prime Minister immediately agreed with me. He said, "बिल्कुल comprehensively देखना चाहिए. आप सही कह रहे हैं." And power secretary did not know where to look at, because he agreed with me totally. So we have to look at why I bring in power here, because let me take you to a different dimension of this center state relationship, because it is wrong to blame only center for the current crisis. That is why I say it's not only center, only state. It's a joint problem and has to be solved jointly. Let me now turn to the problems that are there in the states, because so far I've talked about what central government should do, this, that, and everything. Let's turn to states. Now, all land acquisition actually happens in the states. If it is getting delayed, who's to be blamed? The state government. Environment, forest clearance, initial groundwork gets done in the state. Who's to be blamed? States. And finally, the state discoms owe 1,10,000 crores to the generating companies. Now, if they don't pay generating companies, what that has resulted is that generating companies are not paying their dues to Coal India. They owe them 20,000 crores. Now, even if Coal India produces 700 tons of coal, who's going to pay for it? So the financial position of the DISCOM is the responsibility of the state government. Now,
Yes.
I don't want to talk about blaming each other. That's why I keep saying there are problems at the center, there are problems at the state. And the best way forward is, instead of communicating through the media, they're communicating with each other through media. They should be talking to, not at each other, they're talking to each other across the table. And there are mutual problems, they can sit down. And why I say that? Because in 2014-16, they were exactly the same problem, same set of circumstances. We sorted it out. So this is not rocket technology. This is not an expert talking from across the Atlantic. We have many of them talking from across the Atlantic, telling us how the problems of this country can be sorted out. When they come here, they stay here for a year and go back.
Mr. Swaroop, there is a fair amount of criticism on social media and by people who are monitoring the central government, saying that Coal India has faced wanton, let's say, lack of attention or mismanagement over the last few years to prime this market for the entry of private players like Adani, for example. Do you think that criticism is valid?
Let me tell you very clearly, Coal India has some of the finest officers, some of the finest man managers, and I have traveled deep, gone into mines with those guys. Absolutely competent, committed people want to do it. Now, my contention has always been that both public and private sectors have sufficient space in this area to coexist and solve the problem of the country. Why pit it as public versus private? In fact, I used to convince all the coal mine managers, all their unions, I convinced them into understanding that when private sector comes in, you will ultimately stand to benefit. You will benefit through improved technology that will come to India. You can also adopt that technology. You will have to become more competitive to survive. Your efficiencies will improve. You'll be pushed to improve your efficiencies, and that will help Coal India. I think most of them agreed. So the questions that we are raising, the positioning of our arguments is wrong. It is not public versus private. It is public and private. Of course, there would be competition. Competition is not bad. We pit it as if I'm good. Everybody in Coal India, when I joined, felt that if private sector comes, they will be killed. I said, why would you be killed? I gave them figures to prove that in a number of mines, Coal India is doing better than many of the private sector, both in terms of efficiencies. The problem exists in such mines which are uneconomic in nature, and then Coal India would find a reason to close those mines. There will be a lot of efficiencies that will come in. So I was always in favor. As I said, I promoted commercial mining. If I were against private sector, I wouldn't be promoting commercial mining. I always believe that we should facilitate. I keep using this word, because we are very good at monitoring. We all want to monitor and not be held responsible. How about becoming facilitators? How about helping each other? Why it succeeded in 2014-16?
Mr. Swaroop, forgive me, there is another story that has been reported, and this is not specifically about the shortage we're facing right now, but the 2015 coal mine auctions that you referred to, that this government conducted, actually fed or brought in bids that the government said were too low, and that auction was cancelled. We understand now in November 2020, the same mines were handed over to companies like Jindal Steel and Power for a quarter of the bid that they got back in 2015, that the government then considered too low. There is a concern that the environment clearances, that the auctions, the allocations are showing signs of crony capitalism. Is that something you agree with?
Let us understand. If you read my book, since you mentioned those books, I keep going back to them. If you
Yes.
read my book, Not Just a Civil Servant, there are a few chapters explaining what went right and what went wrong with those auctions. At that point in time, there was absolutely irrational bidding because the entrepreneurs did not know whether they will get coal or not. So it was panic bidding. It was shocking because the way the bids were going up, they were totally uneconomical. Consequent to which, when we accepted the bids, many wanted to get out because they thought that the mines will not be economic. So they did go ahead with the mining. That was one part of it. Let's see, we must understand the ground reality. Hindsight wisdom, all of us have. But at that point in time, it was very clear, thanks to the, as I said, the rampaging CAG, he created an environment that mines should not be going cheap. It's not about it cheap. Each mine has its cost and it varies from mine to mine, depending on the overburden, depending on the location. The costs are different. So you can't average it out as the then CAG did. And that is why some of the guys who took mines were uneconomic and they had to surrender those mines subsequently. The second part is absolutely correct. Let's not talk of there is no crony capitalism. There could be crony capitalists as well because it was open bidding. Every time there's open bidding, how can they be crony capitalists? So second, of course, you correctly said, I think the environment, forest clearance, and land acquisition, where required, are very cumbersome processes. That is why we set up coal project monitoring group. And I wish it had continued after 2016. I'm told that it went into a limbo. I don't know whether it's alive or not. Government will have to play the role of a facilitator for getting these clearances. And if you facilitate clearance of private sector, some may call it crony capitalism, but I think that's a job. Once they bid correctly, we should help them set up their units as quickly as possible.
Mr. Swarup, my last question to you is about the entire power situation in India. India is pushing for electric vehicles, is pushing for some targets on climate change as well. But we still have, like you pointed out, a large amount of our power comes from coal-powered thermal plants, which means the power is not really clean. Have we done truly enough to be able to encourage cleaner sources of electricity and power? And is it time now, given the environment cost of coal mining as well?
What are the options available with us? It is not, I remember when Paris Convention happened, I was supposed to go to Paris. So I thought I'll get lynched there as a coal secretary because it was a conference on environment. So I stayed back in India. So all the ABC, BBC, and all the television channels came to India to interview me. And they were after my life. They said, as you rightly use the word clean energy and this, that, and everything. I told them, what is the option available in this country? Do you want me to stop producing coal and start burning trees? The energy consumption in this country per capita is today equivalent to the energy consumption per capita in the US in late 19th century. Now, if my per capita consumption has to go up, where will the energy come from? I agree that in a utopia, we should be doing all that from solar energy, from wind energy, but is that available? I don't know. People don't understand the limitations of renewable energy. Let's take the example of solar energy. When is it available? It is available during the day. When is our peak requirement? In the evening. So until you have developed sufficient storage, what do? You push thermal power plants to back down during the day, increasing their cost of generation. And that is what is being done now. And I have said that I am all for renewable energy, I am all for solar energy, but don't kill thermal energy by pushing renewable energy. And mark my words today, this interview will revisit that we will kill both solar energy and thermal energy by pushing solar energy unnecessarily. I said that if something has to be subsidized, the government should subsidize it. Why should thermal plants pay the price of solar energy? Why should they do that? Someone else has to subsidize. You are actually making thermal plants uneconomic. This is not a discussion here today. Maybe someday we'll have a discussion on power. We are actually making thermal plants sick. How are they becoming sick? Discoms don't pay them. Government pushes them to back down during this renewable energy usage. So how are they going to become viable? You're going to make them sick. So Let us accept the fact that at least in the next 20 years, we'll have to live with coal. And that's what I told those ABC, BBC, and CBC. I told them, you tell us, give us technology from the Western world to clean coal. Let us have cleaner coal energy rather than talk of only clean energy, for which you won't give me anything. You will only talk and go away, like most of us do. It's nice to talk about it. Clean energy, clean. Look at what is happening in Delhi. We closed our power plants. No, we didn't. In Delhi, we closed our power plants and we are cribbing that we don't have electricity. We are asking somebody else to pollute their area to give me energy here in Delhi. So it's nice to talk about everything clean and green.
All right, Mr. Swarup, thank you for answering our questions. Arun Swarup, the former Secretary Government of India in charge of coal, telling us very clearly that there is a shortage, whether it's a crisis or not is subjective, but there is a shortage. It's caused, apart from the demand options, apart from the fact that there is rain, there is an international problem which has caused an increase in coal prices, it's caused really from mismanagement. He talked about HR mismanagement, which is basically that Coal India, which is our largest supplier of coal in India, went without a chairman managing director for nearly a year. Many of its subsidiaries are going without CMDs as well, still even now. That there's been stagnation in the production of coal from Coal India from 600 million tons for several years. There's been no real increase in that production and investment in it. Money that Coal India had in reserves that should have gone towards investment into higher capacity has actually been diverted and used as dividend by the government of India to shore up its finances. And he did say, and this was a very worrying thing, he said, as he has said in his book in a chapter called Shit Happens, he said many of the Coal India mining operators and managers were being used to dig sanitary holes for the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So they were used to build toilets instead of having them focus on managing the mines. And he did say, of course, Coal India being pushed to invest in fertilizer instead of investing in coal. And that is the neglect for which Coal India suffered, which is where we are here right now. He also, very importantly, and we must not forget about this, talked about the fact that the state governments have a certain onus on this as well. It's important for state and center to work together in order to find a solution. A similar problem was faced back in 2014 and a solution was found. It's simply a question of repeating the solutions that were used back then. Mr. Swarup, thank you so much for speaking with us, and thank you to our audience